What's up, everybody? How you all doing? Okay, let's get started. Can you put my phone away? Not bad. Okay. What's up, homies? I am your friend, Michael Fugoso, aka Illustrator on Instagram. That is actually my shared Instagram now with Adobe. As mentioned earlier, I work with Adobe now. I started there about 2 months ago, and I'll tell you how I got there and the journey to get there. It's pretty cool. It's kind of funny too, in a lot of ways. This is my Instagram account. You don't have to follow me. Don't follow me. Follow me, please. But I just wanted everyone to have this because I put a lot of source files and tutorials in the link in the bio. Just a heads up, there's a Skillshare course on there, which it's a great course, but there's a course right under it with Adobe Live, or I'm sorry, Adobe Max. It's the same exact thing, it's free. Skillshare, that's recorded, huh? That's cool. Okay, watch the free one, okay? And if you have a Skillshare course, watch the Skillshare one. And it'll give you all the process that I do. My official title is Senior Adobe Evangelist for Next Gen Creative Professionals. So all of you, the next generation of creative professionals and current generation awesome people. You know, so I always make this joke where I don't know what an evangelist is. I mean, it's kind of true. I don't know what an evangelist does, but from what I understand, in the past 2 months, I get to just be in front of all of you, make really cool things, and teach you how to do them. So it's the dream come true. Adobe made my dream come true, and I'm going to talk about a little bit later about how if you want to get connected with Adobe too, it's definitely possible, and I'm here to help because I'm your friend. You know? All right, so let's talk about my process a little bit. This is the first thing I did on Instagram that kind of gained traction. It's this crazy, pure vector illustration type of style. Do I do this now? Like, no, I don't anymore because it takes a really long time to do. And to be honest, it's really hard to, when a client asks for this, it's really hard to get paid right for this, you know, because it just takes so long. But it was cool for Instagram, you know, and like the reality behind this style too is like the only benefit you get out of this is that it's infinitely scalable. So however important that is to you, but usually an illustration like this doesn't have to be infinitely scalable. So it's really cool to show like, hey, I worked really hard on this, but the actual application, don't do it. You know, but I got tutorials about it if you want to see. Oh, hey, hello. So this is this is one project that I did for Nike in that same style. It was for their Back to the Future Day. They did I saw your face light up. But it was they made those self-lacing shoes. Yeah, it's pretty cool. They only made like 82 of those shoes. It was the funny thing is like they only invited 82 people. I wasn't invited to the party. And then I asked them to take a picture of the mural that they did in their event. They didn't do it. It's all good. They paid me. You know, honestly, I don't know what's more valuable. I don't know. I might have rather have gotten the picture of it. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, get paid for your stuff, but sometimes other things are more exciting. You know, don't do free work, but do free work. Anyway, this is what I mainly do now. It's this style that's like a layered paper style. What do you call that? The process behind this is the flat style on the left. I try to make that as perfect as it can be, where it's its own standalone piece. It's like the basis with everything I do. Like if the foundation is good, like everything that you build on top of it should be really good too, right? I hope. So the stuff on the right here, which is in Photoshop, on the left it's Illustrator, right, Photoshop. It's hours and hours of texturing and lighting that I do to that thing, so it has to look perfect in its simple form before I spend the hours doing that. And some people actually prefer that one on the right, on the left, you know? So Yup, that's that. This is another way I do. Sometimes I don't even sketch anything. I just go straight into things if I have an idea. This one was, I like putting limitations with what I do. So I was like, I'm gonna try to make something with only triangles. This one was kind of a failure though, because the window, there's, you know, they're like pizza triangles, you know, like slices of pizza. But I kind of did it the smokestack too. But yeah, sometimes I just jump straight into Illustrator and start building shapes. We'll talk a little bit more about the process here. I like to show this slide because this is, I mean, I can draw a little bit better than this, but I'm not typically a good hand drawer. And I'm an illustrator, so you can call yourself an illustrator and not really know how to draw. Yeah, so I kind of just sketch my pieces until I kind of have an idea on how to build it out in Illustrator. I rely heavily on the shape builder tool, and I start everything in black and white usually, so I can kind of gauge the contrast from one shape to the next shape. We talked about that a little bit yesterday. Was there people there yesterday? Cool. How funny would that be if I just did that same presentation? Surprise! But yeah, that's my process. I do everything in black and white. Illustrator has this new generative recolor tool that I showcased yesterday. It's a really cool tool if you start in black and white like this. And then the heavy texturing in Photoshop afterwards. I like showing this slide because a lot of times I kind of don't, I just draw outside of the artboard and in the artboard, outside, in. I kind of see this as like kind of building Legos. You just make a bunch of shapes and put them together, and hopefully you get something cool at the end. You know, so there's, it's kind of like there's no wrong way for your process. It's whatever works for you. One of my favorite illustrators, Owen Davey. Are you all familiar with Owen Davey? It's all good if you're not. But okay, well then you're not going to get this, but it's okay. But he makes these really cool vector-looking illustrations, but he does it in Photoshop. And everyone asks him like, why don't you do it in Illustrator, man? And he's like, well, because that's what I do. That's, and then he gets the results that he gets. Like, you don't have to do it the conventional way all the time to get to where you want to be. This is definitely not conventional. I wouldn't suggest making things like this, but it's how I've been doing things for years, and I work for Adobe now. They still can't change me, you know what I mean? I'm still gonna do my crazy bad habits, but thanks, Adobe. Thanks for everything that you do for me. And then, yeah, that was the result. So I went from that to this right here. I just like that illustration, that's why I put that slide in there. So I'm 40 years old right now. 40 years young. Yup, it's never too late. I like to tell this story. I don't know how to condense the story too much, but I'll try to. The reason why I started a little later, my family wanted me to be, they didn't really push this on me. I could just tell it's just, it's just an unsaid thing, especially with an Asian family, to be like a doctor or an engineer. Oh yeah. I saw some people nodding over here. A doctor or an engineer, and it's kind of how I got into aerospace. We'll talk about that a little bit later. But one of the reasons why I got into design late was when I and this is a really embarrassing story for me to say, is my senior year of college. First off, I was in university for like 7 years because I was studying abroad and I was just having a good time. And then the very last year, I had about 12 units left to graduate, and I cheated on an exam and got expelled. So it was like, yeah, that's really hard for me to say. It's kind of hard for me to accept that, like, I tried to like blame the school and like, hey, that was really harsh and stuff, but at the end of the day, it really was my fault, It was a really hard thing to accept. I kind of like lived in shame. I tried to like make up for it by like, get rich quick pyramid schemes, I tried a bunch of stuff to try to make up for all that stuff to show that I'm successful, but I was like, you know what, I should really kind of just, dig deep into what I want, just take the time and put the work into it. And that's when I went into design school, when I turned 28 and a half. So I've only been in this industry for about 12 years or so. So you can start late. sometimes things just kind of like, sometimes you pick up things really quick when, especially when you're in a, you know, you don't have to be in a really dark place to get into what you need to get into, but I just like telling this story because, you know, it could just happen at any time, and, you know, like if you started a little later like me, like, don't feel like you don't, it's too late for you to start, you know, even if you're like way older and you think you can't do this anymore, like, you know, if you're having fun with it, that's really all that matters, you know. Cool. And, you know, eventually, you know, after I got over all those get-rich-quick schemes and pyramid schemes and stuff, I like buckled down, went to school, and it all spoke to me. Like, I went to art school, and I wanted to be like an anime artist. I don't know how many of you went to design school wanting to be an anime person. I don't know. It seemed like all the students were just like me at that point. But I had one teacher who just taught me like the principles of design, like space and hierarchy, type, and all that stuff like spoke to me way more than hand drawing things. And things just kind of skyrocketed from there. I had this thing, like, I was talking to Victor last night, like a big motivating thing for me, I think, is because, you know, I came at this from a dark place, is like revenge. Like, revenge is is a very motivating thing for me. It's just like a funny story with my dad, because this might choke me up a little bit, but my dad, I think he really wanted me to be an engineer. So I made it like he used to take me to air shows. We used to watch a lot of air shows, the Blue Angels, Aerospace museums and things like that. So it was like a point of mine to work in the aerospace industry, like subconsciously. So I was like, how can I do that with design? And eventually, like I have a process which we'll talk about, how I got into these space companies like NASA and SpaceX and things like that. But it was a really good kind of like mental trophy, like, you know, I did it, Dad. You know, I got to work and get paid as much as these aerospace engineers doing design. You know, they paid that much to do the stuff that we do. If it's, you know, if they can see the value in it, if you believe in it, like, people can feel that, you know, especially with your work. They can feel that your passion and your story into everything that you do, you know. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of that stuff too. So how I got in the industry, this is one of the first things I did for, I would say this kind of works with anything too, not just the aerospace industry. If you kind of find their local outlets first that they're connected with. So what a lot of space companies do, they have, in universities, they have training programs for astronauts and things. So what I did was I found this university called Purdue University. That's where NASA hires most of their astronauts. And I found all of the kind of design work that they were doing, and they had this really cool thing that I applied for. It was a contract work to make a mission patch for their students that will eventually be brought into space and things like that. So the funny thing is, yeah, this is one of the patches that I made for them. Or two of them, I guess. The funny thing is, like, I share it like this on my Instagram. They shared it on Behance, and they made it look so ugly. You know, like, I don't know why I like telling that story. This is recorded. It's all good. Yeah, I don't work with Purdue anymore. It's cool. Thank you, Purdue and NASA. And then that led to, I think that kind of caught traction. I don't know with who, but I got a call from one of the creative directors over at Blue Origin. That's Jeff Bezos' space company, and we did kind of the same type of project. They wanted this patch made for the New Glenn rocket ship. And this one actually went into space, which is really cool. And they sent me pictures of that, which I'm not allowed to share, unfortunately. You know, if I were to follow the rules, which I'm following the rules. You know? But so also, like, if you want to work with space companies and aerospace, a good rule of thumb too is, I know a lot of us like to do these sci-fi illustrations because they're very fun to do, but if you focus on highlighting an engineer's achievement, like a massive milestone that they've made, that's a really, and you do it in a really cool abstract way, that's a really good way to get attention. If you like tag them in Instagram, you highlight some really cool engineering achievements that they've made in a nice abstract way. This is one of my favorite projects with NASA. It was the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11. So on my Instagram account, you'll see a lot of Apollo 11s and a lot of space shuttles, the Endeavors, because one, they get a lot of attention. Like, a lot of people like, those are very iconic rockets, so you'll get some pretty good engagement if you make nice illustration work based off of those subjects. And two, it's what NASA wants. It's their memorabilia. That's the stuff that they sell the most. A huge demographic for space companies are children, because they get their parents to buy them cool stuff. My favorite work that I've done in aerospace is actually the merch and memorabilia type things. I've done other work, like I've worked with Boeing. We did user experience design for the stuff that goes into their aircrafts, which sounds really cool. It's not that cool. It's a lot of government stuff. Government's cool, it's necessary, it's important, it's scary, but I'll leave it at that, They pay you a lot for that, though. Huh? Oh man, I wonder how much. Who's watching this? Okay, it's all good. I'm gonna spread it all over my socials. They're all gonna see it. Aerospace was my favorite space company. They're a French space company. They made the rocket that launched the James Webb Telescope, and they're always looking for designers. I seriously think the aerospace industry is just this untapped resource for designers. I kind of relate it to the real estate industry, how they need really good designers. There's so many of them. There's about 750 aerospace companies in the United States. If you all want, I can give you the website, and there's probably a ton of them in Orlando, I bet. And we've got the Kennedy Space Center around here somewhere, right? So, it's a super untapped resource, and it's easier to get into this field than you think, especially if you enter through these local connections. Like I was saying, the universities that have space programs, Boeing has a lot of programs too with universities and museums, like the Kennedy Space Center. They're all looking for really cool design work, so untapped resource. If you need more help with that, I'm happy to talk to you after this or on the DMs. 72-hour response time. It's getting longer. Every time I talk about the response time, the more people I meet, it gets a little bit longer. This is a newer thing. Another untapped resource these days is AR. Oh, spoiler! Oh shoot! I just spoiled whatever. I'm gonna play this video really quick. So I made this sticker, and I printed this QR code in the back, and once they do that, they get this really cool 3D effect with anything printed. And all this is this trick. It's in Adobe Aero, by the way. That's still in beta. That trick really just takes 5 minutes to do. You just separate your layers in Photoshop, put it into Aero, and then control the spacing in between the layers. That's really all it takes to do that. And then every time I show it to someone, they're like, "Oh, whoa!" It looks like a very daunting thing. I have the tutorials on there on Instagram too, if you want to check it out. It's honestly super easy to do. And I do think AR is a very untapped resource. So there's so much things that you could do. You could put proximity triggers, meaning like when you move closer to it, something will interact. You could put buttons that float in space that you can tap on your phone, and things will come out of there. Whoa, hey! I forgot it did that. Yeah, the rocket comes up and it goes back down. All right. And so a cool thing about this project, this is a collaboration with NASA and Adobe. So NASA collaborates with everybody. I don't know if you all do that. But also space companies too, they all compete with each other, but they all share the same resources because it's just so expensive to make rockets. So you work with one space company, it's really easy to jump to the next, and go back to that one, and they're all cool with it. There's usually never an NDA except with Blue Origin. Can't show my stuff in space. That's all good. Whatever. All right, let's talk about my mindset behind this stuff. Think like an artist, execute like a designer. What do I mean by that? The artist side is, it's kind of the stuff that's more selfish to you, more personal. It puts a story to your work. And that's ultimately the thing that makes your stuff really unique and what gets people interested in you personally. Yeah, when people say your brand, it's your artist side. You know, I think that's the side that I really want to focus on. But you can't really forget the design side, which is basically where you're thinking of everybody else. Like, how is everybody going to consume the stuff that you do? How applicable is this to an audience? Like, are you speaking to an audience with this stuff? Like, that stuff is really important, you know? So you could like go off the wall full artist mode and maybe hit lightning in a bottle and, you know, be the next Picasso or something like that. But us as designers, we're always creating for an end user in mind, you know? So I like to, like most of the stuff I make that you see on Instagram, it's all artistry first, but it's always tailored towards some kind of audience. And as I demonstrated before, it's a lot with the aerospace industry. A reason why I do a lot of the paper stuff is because I was telling you that children are a huge demographic with space. So that was by design, not by me being super selfish with everything. But it's important to be selfish with your stuff. So I kind of see it like a meter. You know, maybe this is the artist side and then you've got the design side here. If you're too much on the art side, you kind of run the risk of people not understanding what you're doing, you know, but it could be really cool. Like, some people might get it, but like I said, you might hit that lightning in a bottle. But, you know, if you're on the design side, too much on the design side, you're just thinking about other people only, your work is just super boring, you know? So you kind of want to, I wouldn't say be in the middle. I like to choose kind of, like, I'd say I'd probably be 70% on the art side and 30% on the design side. That's kind of the balance that I kind of like, that works for me, for my output. If you're a UX designer, then this is not a fact or anything, I feel like you would be more on the design side because there's always an end user in mind there on how they navigate through these applications. So that's just how I approach every single project, like what's more important. And most of the projects that I work with, they want that uniqueness and they want that storytelling in there, so I focus more on the art side. You know, that's really like all I think about as far as mindset goes with all this stuff. Lastly, I want to talk about Adobe. Adobe fortunately gave me this cool dream job, and I got to talk to all of you about it. If you want to get recognized with Adobe, for the creatives, they hire almost everyone through social media. So Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, I think are the main ones. That might be wrong, but I know they got me through Instagram. And the process is that they're looking for really talented designers that also show process. So if you're interested in working with Adobe, those are the two things you have to nail really good. And then the next thing is to know someone like me, because I'm looking for people to recommend over to Adobe Live, to live stream and to show your process there. So getting into Adobe Live is, I think, and this is not really a super fact, but what worked for me, that was my foot in the door, was to be into Adobe Live and to live stream on their channels, which then led me to Adobe Max, which led to a ton of contract work with Adobe, which were all fun. I just showed you the NASA and Adobe collaboration. And then that eventually led to me being an evangelist with Adobe. And they keep telling me it's the coolest team within the company. And I kind of agree. It's like all we really do is get to make really cool stuff and show it off and show you all how to make all of them, you know? So afterwards, if you want to talk about Adobe, you want to talk about Aerospace, I'll be here hanging out. I don't know, can we hang out here a bit longer? I'll be here if you all want to talk about this a bit more. Do I have anything else here? I got this. Check out the link in my bio. Like I said, I even have this file that you can download. I know I told you all, like, don't make stuff like this. But, you know, I mean, you could break something like that down and that might spark ideas for something else, maybe, in the vector space. So you can even download that bug file and kind of see how I made the blurs and the, you know, the lighting effects and everything. That paper style, wood paper style there is on there too, and I also have a bunch of AR things that you can download and try for yourself. You know? Thanks to everybody. Thanks for yesterday, thanks for this morning. It's just been so awesome. You've all been so nice to me. I am your friend, seriously. We're friends. We're life. So reach out to me anytime. Friends do a 72-hour response time. Thanks everybody. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, CreativeMornings.
So we have time for some Q&A. So if you have a question, raise your hand, and I'll go by with the microphone so that we can record it for the video.
Oh,
and
yes.
we'll get started. All right. There's a gentleman back here. Can you tell us what your name is, sir?
What's up? I'm Clark.
Oh, what's up, Clark?
That was very fun and inspiring. So it seems like you obviously work in Illustrator and bring it into Photoshop, correct?
Yeah.
To do the layering. Are you exporting your layers from Illustrator into Photoshop so it's all ready to go?
Yes.
And then do you ever mess with texturing where you're not going into Photoshop, you're just doing that in Illustrator?
Yes. Hold on really quick. If I just move up one slide. Like this is what it looks like when it's just all in Illustrator right there. But I don't do a lot of heavy texturing with it Illustrator. A lot of it's because I don't know how. But I'm just, honestly, I haven't really tried it. But the process is I export from Illustrator. The problem with that too is it exports as a raster. You lose all the vector properties. So I just export at 700 ppi, you know, and texture it from there in Photoshop. Also, I just find with all the lighting gradients, you get a wider gamut of color in Photoshop. You don't get a lot of the banding that you do in Illustrator. That's why I've been sticking to Photoshop with most of it and haven't. But yeah, I think I do want to get a process that's 100% in Illustrator with texturing. I think that's something a lot of people ask me for, and I'm like, I don't know how to do it, but I'll find out and I'll give it to you later.
And then a quick follow-up to that is, do you have like batch processes or actions in Photoshop to achieve all your textures and like some of your drop shadows, or are you doing that per layer, like you're doing it like every time?
So I have this business partner before. I mean, he's my friend now. We just don't have a business together anymore. But he made an action for me because he drove him crazy. Because he was my animator. Like I would give him my file, and then he was like, you can just make an action and it's like super easy. So he made that action for me, and it works perfect. Well, I mean, it works, right? But I find that I just jump into every single layer anyway and make tweaks. So I just stuck to my ways, just doing it one by one. It might drive me crazy. You know what though? I name every single one of my layers. You might be proud of me there, but the file might drive you insane when you see it. Just a heads up. Download it, see for yourself. Hey, Clark, thanks, man.
By the way, Clark gave an amazing talk last night, so hopefully you caught it. So yeah, clap it up for Clark.
Hey, it's Anton.
What's up, Anton?
I remember I took your workshop a couple months ago at Creative South, and that's how we met. And one of the things I really liked as a story that you told was how you found out how to do the lighting for your layers, like how to do the shadows, like how to figure out specifically the angles and stuff like that.
This is gonna sound very weird, creepy, but I go into a bathroom and I get an object with a flashlight, turn off all the lights, and one light point, and then you can kind of. That's where I got that double shadow technique. Did you remember that double shadow technique?
Yeah,
that was one awesome. Shadow there and a more shallower shadow. Because every time, I can probably look at my shadow now, there's two shadows cast usually with a light. And I got that from that flashlight thing. And also like if you have a flashlight on an object in a dark bathroom, it's very dramatic. That's why that's one thing someone called me out with. It's like, oh, your light source is always from the top left. I'm like, Yep. Makes it a lot easier for me to do this for hours, so, yeah.
Awesome, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else? Questions? All right.
Sorry, really quick, Anton made the stickers that you all see on the table. She's a local sticker printer. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to.
You're good.
But thank you, Anton.
Okay.
Heck yeah. What's up?
No,
I'm
that's
sorry.
totally threw my line thought off. I forgot what I was going to ask.
Oh,
My name is Giovanni. I'm a student at UCF. Ashley and Victor are some of my professors, and I just really appreciate them putting this together for us.
Were you at the workshop yesterday?
I wasn't. I was able to make it. I was working,
Oh,
unfortunately.
I mean,
I wanted
were you
to
there at
respond to
night?
this.
Were you at the night one?
No, I wasn't able to. I'm sorry.
Cool.
But my question, my question for you was, I guess as a student, kind of looking forward to going in industry, I was under the impression, or I guess like the thought that to be a professional, like in your shoes, you kind of have to know these programs like Adobe, Illustrator, and Photoshop, like kind of inside out. And I guess I'm still kind of on that path, but would you say that's kind of like a misconception that you kind of have to know like everything about the program?
100%. It's a total misconception. Man, I work for Adobe, you know what I mean? So, no, I mean, when I talk to the Evangelist team, like, we know that people stick to their tools, especially when they get really good at them. So, in Illustrator, I probably only use about 12 tools, maybe, regularly. And if I don't know how to do something, I'll like, YouTube it and figure it out. I think the most important thing out of school is to learn to be conceptual. So, a lot of people, when I was in school, everyone was saying like the typography classes and the live drawing classes were the most boring, and like the boring art classes, like those are typically the most important ones you need to build that foundation. So like the design basics course, like everyone hated that because we're focusing on stuff like hierarchy, movement, and space. That doesn't really speak to people immediately, but those are really the courses that you need to focus on. And if you think about with AI also being able to speed up our process, it gives us more of a necessity to be conceptual with things. So that's the skill that really gets you paid too.
Good to know. Thank you.
Yeah.
Who else? I know that when the talk is over, like everybody's going to ask Michael like questions one-on-one. So I know y'all have questions, so hopefully you can ask them for the group. Did you have one?
Hi, Michael and Paula.
Hi.
I'm a student as well. I go to here at Fugoso, and
Heck yeah.
I just wanted to know, like, I'm getting into freelancing a little bit. What's your biggest tip to like get your work out there, get noticed, get jobs?
Oh, I have an annoying answer for this. It's basically social media, because if you build, this is just my experience, and I know social media is annoying for everybody, including myself. But once you gain traction on social, it kind of does all the work for you, as far as like client onboarding, and I mean, you still got to do that stuff too. Like you guys still got to do your own outreach, but it makes so much stuff easier when you have proof that people like your stuff and there's numbers behind it, that's my annoying answer. So the other thing is, I kind of talked about it earlier, is like, instead of approaching these giant companies right away, is to find their local connections, if you have a goal with this. So, what was one of them? Like, if I were to work with, if I had one project with Coca-Cola before, and the way I got that project was I found a local distributor that just distributes Coca-Cola cans, and they were connected with the company. So I would find out how these things are connected on a business standpoint, and then it would make communication easier on who to target and who would actually listen to you. Because if you go straight to the director of marketing at Coca-Cola, you're not going to get anything. I don't know if that answers your question, but I start very small and very local and find the connections that way. That's how my business brain works. So when I got expelled out of school, that was one of the biggest things I learned is how to navigate through
Yeah.
these business things. Like, I got something out of this horrible, horrible experience. But yeah, that's how I would do it. Local, small, and then connected to something.
Great.
And then spiderweb it, Spider-Man.
Hey, Michael, I got a question.
Yeah.
So earlier you said there was a college professor, instructor that mentioned a specific like space hierarchy, and that was kind of what clicked for you.
Yeah.
Could you elaborate a little bit on that? Just like a 1-minute explanation of that specifically. Those.
Yeah, I think it's because I used to draw a lot as a kid. I would draw like Dragon Ball Z characters and stuff. And a lot of people liked my stuff, but it got to a point where like everything I made just didn't make sense. And then when that instructor was teaching me this stuff, like he was making sense of everything I was doing wrong. Like the hierarchy is super important, right? Because that tells someone like what to see first. Like this is the first thing. Your work needs to have that's the first part of the storytelling in your piece. And I think once my instructor kind of connected everything with storytelling, that's what really spoke to me. And I think that's why social media works with me, because social media is really just 100% storytelling, you know. So and I like to tell stories, funny ones, stupid ones, horrific ones. So I think my team, and he was also very enthusiastic. That's the power of teachers, you know. They really shape you, especially if you're in this vulnerable spot that I was in. Like Victor is an amazing teacher. Well, right when I saw you, Victor, I was like, I know you have this presence, you know. Why is everyone laughing?
Because we know it.
But yeah, Victor's got that presence. I met some really influential teachers. I think that's a really important role. Like I was a teacher too. At a point right after I graduated, I went straight into teaching, which is probably why I like to do all these workshops and things. So. I don't know if I explained that right, but I think it's just a connection of storytelling and these like boring words. Like hierarchy sounds boring from the surface, but when you connect it with something that's relatable to life, it's
Yeah. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
for sure.
All right, who else? All right.
Hey.
And who raised your hand over here? I'll come to you next.
Thank you. Great job. This has been great. Thanks.
Oh, thanks. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, like, are there any like tips or processes that you engage in to disrupt how you're thinking or working on things to like change the pace or find some new way of, you know, creating, producing things?
That's a good question, because I'm usually someone that just sticks I stick to my guns with you know, even stuff that takes me, that's even the wrong and long way to do. Maybe I don't have an answer to that. Can you ask it in a different way?
How do you like change it up and find new ways of doing things or expressing things? Is there a way that you try and find ways of innovating your processes?
Yes. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, no.
I think it's just kind of someone told me that. Okay, this is kind of like a debate I had with one of my coworkers in my team at Adobe. It's because I read this book, I forgot what it was called, but it was basically saying a jack of all trades lifestyle is the way to live, and basically to have as much experiences as you don't have to be the best at master something and be the best at it. You just have to be good enough at something and good enough at multiple things. And I was talking about the spiderweb stuff, but then you make the spiderweb connection with all those things that you're good at. You know, so I was saying that I drew a lot of anime. A lot of my rockets has a lot of those anime motion things there. That's like a connection like that. So I would say it's just doing a bunch of things and getting fairly good at them, and you know, like kind of to get out of the mastery mindset, and that sounds counterproductive to a lot of people, but the book was saying that if you are a jack of all trades person, you actually are more likely to master something because you're making more connections with your Spider-Man webs. So
The jack of all trades, master of none, but oftentimes better than master of one.
Is that the whole thing?
Yes.
Is that the whole book in one sentence? I sat through this like 300 pages of this thing.
We only say like the first half of it, but that's the full sentence.
That's the only book I've ever finished too. Yeah, Ember, she's like a big book person. She probably hated these things. Like, I was a Cliff Notes person in college. Do they still have Cliff Notes these days? It's okay. They were kind of useless.
We have AI now.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yes. What's up?
Hi. So my question was, how do you build your confidence as an artist and a designer, especially when it comes to sharing your work on social media?
Revenge. Revenge is how, I mean, I say that in a negative kind of way, but it really, like, it just fuels me. I don't know, like when I was telling you about this dark place that I was in, and when I was telling my friends and stuff that I wanted to go to design school, like not one of them supported me, except maybe like one or so. Like I still love them and they're my friends, and I think they said this stuff out of concern and out of love. But it's just this thing that kind of like fueled me, like I'll show you. And then I think that like I don't even think about confidence because I was like, I'm going to, I was like tunnel vision with this, like, I want to show my friends. And that's another good tip on social media and stuff when you're starting out. A lot of people make things because they think their family and their friends are their only audience and the only people that would respond to it. Forget that. Like it's, your family and friends are going to be your worst critics because they know so much about you, and it's just not, and that's not even the audience. Most of them are probably not even designers or creative or wherever you're trying to go. Like, I know I'm not answering your question at all, but I just do think that's really good advice, just to forget keep your family as friends as your loved ones, and you love them and you're cool, but professionally, like, look past them and find the audience. Your family and friends will end up respecting you more once you're successful, So, so how do I build confidence? Yeah, building confidence, I really pull from negative things, like I'll show you, or, and also just like I've embarrassed myself so many times. Like I could be up here and say a bunch of stupid stuff and be like, whatever, because I had way worse stuff happen to me on stage. So I was like, I should just kind of, I don't know, that's not good advice. I kind of don't have a good answer to that. I think it's, I'm sorry. Right, that's the best. I can only really say what's happened with me and lose revenge.
We have time for one more question.
It's kind of a silly question,
That's a
but
silly question.
who is your anime manga inspiration for your revenge journey?
One Piece.
Okay.
So, in Japan, they say that One Piece is their Bible in Japan because it teaches you so much life lessons. There's, spoiler alert, there's one thing, because they're like these badass pirates, right? And then they just get their asses kicked all of a sudden when you think they're on this streak. I'm sorry, that's a bad word. But, and then they just have a life realization that, like, hey, we're all friends, but we've been slowing each other down. Let's go separate for 2 years and train really hard, and let's meet back at this one point. And then, like stuff like that. Like I literally left my family and friends after I got expelled from school for like 2 or 3 years. I did the same thing for One Piece of like, I'm gonna go find and train and like figure out my own way out of my head. And then I'm gonna get back to my loved ones, so I don't spread any like negativity, or I don't bring anyone else down. So, One Piece. teaches all the life lessons. You know, yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you.